Tēnā koutou katoa. Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today and taking some time out of your day to enjoy, to be with us for this lunchtime bite. Today we're pleased to welcome Naomi Manu, who will be introducing us to the TOHU Careers, an exciting and innovative platform designed to support rangatahi across Aotearoa as they explore their future career paths. As many of you know that we don't always have equal access to career information guidance and opportunities. So TOHU Careers was created to help address that challenge by providing a free, accessible and a culturally grounded online tool that empowers rangatahi to discover career options, build confidence in their steps and connect with opportunities that are relevant to them. One of the things that makes TOHU Careers particularly special is its commitment to ensuring that all rangatahi can access quality career support regardless of where they live or their circumstances. Today's session will give us an opportunity to learn more about the platform, to hear about the thinking behind its development and explore how schools, whānau, career practitioners and community organisations can spread the word and support young people to engage with TOHU Careers. So nā mai, haere mai, Naomi, over to you.
Oh, tēnā rā tātou katoa. Ai, ka tika me mihi ki a koe li mō tō mihi tēnei ahiahi. O te rā tātou katoa, tēnei te mihi nui ki a koutou. Ko wai tēnei, ko Naomi Manu ahau. I te taho o tōku pāpā, he mokopuna o te Wairarapa. He honongo hoki ki Ngāti Raukawa ki te tonga. And I te taho o tōku māma, he uri no Ngāti Kahungunu ki Wairo. Nō reira, kei te mihi. Welcome everybody. It's lovely to be with you this afternoon and to spend some time just sharing some of my thoughts and around career development, rangatahi career development, and importantly introducing you to, if you haven't seen it already, to a tool that is grounded in kaupapa Māori. And yeah, so like I mentioned, my whakapapa ties are to the Wairarapa and to Wairoa on my mum's side, and I live in the thriving metropolis of Palmerston North. So huge mihi atu to all of you, and yeah, I'll crack on and go through this presentation for you. With you. A little bit about, I guess, the whakapapa of TOHU Careers is a wee while ago, back in 2015, I started working at Massey University, and while I was there, I was responsible for workforce development for Māori and Pacific staff and students. And as part of that piece of work, I founded a kaupapa called Puhoro STEM Academy. And the Puhoro STEM Academy is a kaupapa Māori program that seeks to engage more rangatahi in science and technology. And so it started as a little pilot in Manawatu and has now grown to be a nationwide kaupapa that's, I think it's present now in around about 180 schools across the country. But what was really significant and what is significant about these types of kaupapa is they're not add-ons. They are things that become normalized within the systems as well. And so that was the whāinga, that was the aspiration for Puhoro STEM Academy, and this is the aspiration for TOHU Careers. While I was at and leading Puhoro, I did some work around career mapping with our rangatahi, and so I developed kind of a paper-based career mapping tool. And what sits underneath the kind of initial thinking around what has become TOHU Careers in a paper-based way, format, is this thinking about our values and our inheritances. And at the time, I was like, we don't have things and resources and tools that connect our rangatahi to who they are and anchor them in their identity. And then from that position, have them explore what opportunities there are to explore, their contribution and what that might look like in the form of work. And so thinking about these types of things, thinking also about career exposure. And part of the work that I set up in Puhoro was it was based off this notion that, well, and the research evidence that our young people are likely to move into careers that are similar to their parents or their parents' social network, which is why we have generations of people who work in a particular field. Me, for example, I have generations of freezing workers. In my family, I was the first to go to university. Actually, I was the first to finish school C, and so, uh, um, but I'm the only one of six siblings who didn't work in the freezing works, and I think it wasn't. It was more than I just didn't want to. Um, but um, but also for me, it was there was just something else that kind of I had a little bit of a different fire in my belly, and that was a real privilege for me. And so it took me on a different journey. So we can see, and there may be circumstances within your own families where you can see generations of family members who might have had similar careers, and that's all tied into this notion of exposure and what that social network actually looks like. What that social network actually looks like for Māori. So when we think about, and when I thought about establishing Pūhoro, the ideas behind that was how do we create a social network that goes beyond what our rangatahi might already know, and potentially the limitations of what they might have exposure to. So how do we create that? And how do we create and build a community and a movement around that? So following that thread came these workshops around career exposure and career mapping. The next step is how do we anchor identity in this career mapping piece? What does that look like? And so I developed the paper-based workshop. Now, TOHU Careers has taken the paper-based workshop, and I've digitized it into what is now TOHU Careers. Now, what's important about it is it's all based on an atua pedagogy. And there's a dual meaning to the atua pedagogy. Uh, um, the dual meaning is you'll see in tohu careers that there are atua Māori. And so it's about connecting our rangatahi with atua Māori and understanding atua Māori, who they represent, and also connecting them with the kōrero, some of the oral traditions that were actually used as early traditional parenting tools as well. And so, how do we connect that in to anchor identity? So that's the atua. That's one part of the atua pedagogy. It's about how do they understand some of the epistemological um, uh, uh, understandings and narratives that have been passed down from generation through generation to generation. How do we reconnect them with that? Now, an example is Maui. We think about Maui and thinking about Maui slowing the sun. Well, there's a whole lot of kōrero in there around, firstly, time management. How are we managing our time? But also, there's a whole lot around teamwork. There's a whole lot around environmental science. There's a whole lot around uh, um, uh, oh gosh, I don't know, innovation. There's a lot of stories around that. But what's really important as a key trait from Maui is his innovation and curiosity. And so what it does within the Atua pedagogy is it sparks a little bit of interest in some of these Atua traits that we might inherently have within ourselves that we may not necessarily have noticed. The second part of the Atua pedagogy is the notion of Atua. And Atua means from beyond. So we can think about the atua pedagogy and the atua within tohu careers as this is about inheritances. What are some of those innate skills that we have that we actually just show up with? Now, we don't have career mapping tools that look into that and explore that. And so that's what I wanted to develop. How do we have the kind of tools that explores that, but also reminds our rangatahi that although they may experience systems of exclusion, they don't turn up without anything. They already turn up on day one with wonderful inheritances and skills that will be able to catapult them into the future. So that's the first part. The second part is about identifying our values. What are our core values? And if we think about our core values, what are those core values that help drive our behavior, drive our decisions? How do we identify our core values so that we can allow our core values to lead? So the second part of Tohu Careers is it couples um, inheritances with core values. Those together, how do those inheritances and how do those core values show up in the way we move and the way in which we might work? So I'll just pull up my presentation as well, and I'll share this with you. Can you all see that okay? Ka All right. So this is about being values led, understanding our inheritances, but it's also within the platform, it's a simple 5-minute journey. What I wanted to do was ensure that we capture interest and we hold that interest as well. And a long questionnaire is not necessarily going to do that with our rangatahi or with adults for that matter. So this is a 5-minute journey that's grounded in Te Ao Māori, but it connects rangatahi with their inheritances, their values, and the way that those show up in the world. So you might have a specific inheritances that you might explore, then coupled with a set of values. And then the rangatahi it'll connect them to a whole range of different jobs for them to explore. And it'll also say how these values and these inheritances show up in this specific job. So have a look at that and think about that. So this is what this Tohu Careers does. So it's more than just a careers website. This is actually about a journey of discovery. And it's a journey of rediscovery for our rangatahi. So for them, it's the self-discovery around how do they really start to connect with who they are? How do they reach through and pull on some of those inheritances that are there through their birthright? How do we identify and provide space for them to explore that? Also, I wanted it, like I mentioned before, I wanted it to be accessible. I wanted them to be able to go through this in as painless as a way as possible in terms of completing these questionnaires. So it's a very short questionnaire, and they can continue to go through it, and they can explore some of the inheritances that they might have from different atua too. So there may be some inheritances, say from Maui, in terms of that curiosity, or they might be haututu. As when I was growing up, haututu was a bad word, right? And you know, my nanny was always calling us haututu little buggers. But you know what? Now with my children, I'm like, haututu is so great. Wreck it, and put it back together. You know, paiana. If we make mistakes, we make mistakes, and that's okay. If we make a mess, we make a mess. And that's okay because this is all about the process of learning. I have inheritances from Maui that explains a lot about me, but also it helps me feel a deeper connection to my Māori identity. I have inheritances from Papatūānuku that give me a great sense of my wahinetanga. I have inheritances from Raumoko where sometimes I just want to just kind of smash everything up and rebuild. But we have a whole lot of different inheritances that we have the pleasure and the privilege to explore, and this platform provides a vehicle for that to occur. So part of the atua pedagogy is based off of, at this stage within the platform, we have 3 atua. I'd love to create more, but that would be something that that may come in the future as well. So we have Maui, that's all about creativity and innovation and challenging limits. So, again, Maui, slowing the sun. I love that kōrero, because it teaches us that Maui, if we think about this differently, Maui didn't like the conditions that he had. And so he changed them. It's as simple as that. He changed them. And that's a wonderful learning for any rangatahi, to be able to think like Maui. I don't like this, so I'm just going to change it. But how do we arm them with the tools to be able to make change? How do we arm them with the confidence to be able to make change? What does that look like? And how do we unpack that along as we sit along a rangatahi that might be exploring tohu careers? So these are, if you're sitting with rangatahi, these are some of the conversations that you could have with papatūānuku. Thinking about, well, what are your inheritances in terms of whakapapa? How do we understand our whakapapa? How do we connect with the whenua? If we might have inheritances that if a rangatahi was going through the questionnaire and they identified papatūānuku as an atua that they might resonate with, then maybe pull that apart. What does that look like? What are some of the things and traits that they might not have noticed about themselves before, that they might think, oh, yeah, I do have this real connection to te taiao. I have a connection to the land. I have a connection to the environment. How do you explore that so that they can start to think about, well, what kind of job could I do if I'm connected, if I feel a connection, and have identified some inheritances from Papatūānuku? With Raumoko is one of my favorites too. When I think about him, I think about transformation. Because Raumoko literally engineers the landscape, right? And so when I think about Raumoko, I think about all of the different types of engineering opportunities that there are, because this is literally his domain. And so that kind of creation, transformation, engineering, what is moving and what is bubbling underneath the surface for our rangatahi, if they identify something that resonates with them with Raumoko, what is that that's bubbling underneath the surface? How do we explore that with them? And how do we provide opportunity to explore that with them? The second part of the questionnaire is about values. How do they identify their values? So there's a short questionnaire in here where they might answer a few questions that would help them identify some of these values. Now, here are examples of some values that are in the system as well. So think about kaitiakitanga. Now, the difference between these cultural concepts, like kaitiakitanga, manaakitanga, pukengatanga, it's very difficult to translate these into English, because we're not translating words, we're not translating Māori words, we're translating Māori concepts. And so finding an equivalent Māori word, English word is very difficult to do. So we think about these in terms of concepts. So kaitiakitanga, the concept of guardianship, stewardship, environmental protection, manaakitanga, respect, generosity, care for others. Pukenga is mastery, a real deep knowledge acquisition when you just become, oh, I've just forgotten the word. When you master something, when you develop a particular expertise, that was the word. Rangatiratanga. So leadership manifests in a whole range of different ways as well. And we know with rangatiratanga, you can have quiet leaders, you can have servant leaders, you can have a whole range of different leaders. Part of this, there's some kōrero about, if you unpack the word ranga and tira. Some people talk about this as ranga comes from raranga, so weaving, and tira is a group. So weaving a group of people together. So thinking about these types of values and or thinking about leadership in a whole range of different ways as well. Whanaungatanga is about connection. There's, in terms of collective strength, there's that kotahitanga, that you know, being united in purpose and with purpose. But whanaungatanga is about relationships, actually. It's about being able to develop and having a particular skill in developing and managing relationships. Now, how it all works is well, after going through the first two, what happens is this next step is you get an insights report. So this personalized report shows how atua traits or inheritances and values combine into a way of working. Then the rangatahi are shown real pathways. So matched occupations and that have entry requirements, pay range, and a full TOHU career profile. So this links then into the TOHU careers website. So the first part of it, in terms of steps 1 to 3, are within the TOHU Careers platform. Well, 4 is in the TOHU Careers platform, but when those careers are surfaced, or those occupations are surfaced, rangatahi can click on them and they'll be taken directly across to the TOHU website. So this is it's used on mobile, on iPads. It's all configured for different uh, modes, and it is again about inheritances, core values, and in recommendations. Because what's really important about this is about choice for rangatahi. It's uh, how wonderful it is to be able to be in a position where you have choice. And this is what we want to create. So when they receive kind of a career profile or occupations, they have a range of them from degree-led vocation and trades, te ao Māori. They'll have a range of choices and options so that they can start to explore. And remembering part of this is not that they should have an expectation that by the time they come through this 5-minute questionnaire in Tohu Careers that they know what they're going to do. This is about providing them with tools for them to be able to explore. But they're exploring from a different perspective, and that perspective is what are their inherent characteristics? What are they bringing to the table before they layer any other skills on top of that? So every match again is framed around them. So framed around their inheritances that are surfaced, their values that are surfaced, and they're able to be provided with the full career profiles that are found within the TOHU platform, but also linked into TOHU so that they can explore the range of information that this new the new redeveloped careers.govt website is. And I just think that it's absolutely fantastic. Tohu Careers also features within TOHU. So within a couple of different areas within TOHU, any student will be able to be linked into Tohu Careers as well. So that's my presentation today. It is freely available to anyone that wants to use the platform. And yeah, I'm just grateful for the time that you've taken to hear more about it and hear more about particularly about how to use the platform. So I'm happy to take any questions that anyone might have at this point.
Thank you so much, Naomi. That's a really good overview to understand how the platform works. Because we're quite a small group, but just unmike if you've got some questions. My first question is kind of what age group have you targeted it to? Do you see we'll get the most out of it?
I think any secondary school students mainly, and any age of secondary school students. Some tertiary students use the platform as well, and there are profiles of tertiary students, and there's a tour kind of tab in there
Mhm.
as well, where students can see other Māori students who have moved into either tertiary or have gone through tertiary and into careers as well. So we'll build up those two kind of profiles in there as well.
And also does it draw from all of the different occupations on TOHU?
It does. So there's an API integration into the 800 plus career occupations within the TOHU website. So if a student goes, for example, goes through a couple of times, they're likely to receive different careers profiles as well because but all of their career profiles still match their inheritances and their values. But there are just so many, right? And so this is
Yeah,
also
that's right.
about giving that exposure.
Yeah, I can see it as a great tool to open conversations. Just one thing I noticed, and I'll hand over the floor, I promise, is that when you looked at the options, there was university led, there were vocational and apprenticeship, and can't remember what was at the end. Another one there. What about just one thing that's come up in conversation with a lot of people I'm talking about is that we have about 30% of our kids that go to university. We have around 8 to 10% that go to apprenticeships, but we've got this big gap of all these other young people who do certificates, diplomas, often in private training, or they go direct to work. Is that built in there, this sort of certificate, diploma, private trainers, polytechs, those things as well?
Absolutely, absolutely. And because that's really important, right? I think what is really important for our young people is if they're identifying who they are, and what drives them and their why, essentially, then they're 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 more likely to, this is the gig economy, the landscape's really changed. So having that full breadth of opportunity and pathway is really important for them. So direct to work, absolutely, and into all levels of education as well. So, because what's also important is we might have young people who may not have completed NCA level one, right? Well, I wanted to ensure that they have choice as well. And so whatever that choice might look like, if they have, I think our young people have, because so many of them are Hotatu by nature as well, they're incredible with tech. And so, you can move into tech startup and, AI tooling and all of that kind of stuff and vibe coding, all of that kind of stuff. You can move into that as a 15-year-old and start making money. Like there are a whole range. And I think that this is what's really important is that our rangatahi have access to a full range of pathways.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, it's just tools to be able to enable them to be curious and to find out more. So I'll hand it over to the floor. Any questions? Everybody's been very quiet today. Yeah, so if there's no questions, I will put a link to her careers in the next newsletter alongside the recording. And it'd be interesting to do it with students. I haven't had an opportunity to jump in with students yet to do it, but I will. And see, getting ideas on where you're using it, how you're using it, and sharing ideas, I think would be really valuable. So thank you very much, Naomi. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to talk to us. And yeah, it's just any innovations like this that we can um, explore. And also too, I think a lot of us will find that with TOHU, we want a number of different ways of getting to different students. So yes, there is an interest quiz on TOHU, but having something like this that is quick, that we can do in a reasonably short amount of time that is really relatable to all students, I think is very valuable, and it's coming in from a number of different angles. So thank you so much for sharing that with you, and all the very best.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me. Thank you for giving up your time to spend time with me today. Thank you.
So thanks everybody. We've actually got another lunch bite tomorrow, just the way it all worked this week. And so we've got Elizabeth Berg on, who is she's from a school in Northland. She's done the Masters of Contemporary Education, and she's going to talk about her Masters project, but also talk career. Academy X will also be there to talk to anybody if they're interested in doing a Masters qualification, because I think it's a very open qualification. And I think there's pretty much as can get scholarships to 100% fund that. So as we're sort of looking and grappling for qualifications in this area, and also being project based, I think that'll be really interesting to see Elizabeth and the work that she's done with Academy X. So if you're up for it tomorrow, at 12 o'clock tomorrow, we've got that lunchtime bite. So yeah, enjoy the rest of the term, and I'll put this recording up as soon as I get that organized. Thanks for your time. Bye.